Now, many of you may well know the brand LivePerson. We've been listed on NASDAQ for about 20 years. We're well known for doing web chat or live chat. I'm not going to talk to you about that at all today. In fact, I believe, and LivePerson believes, that really within 3 to 4 years, live chat as a session-based synchronous conversation channel is going to be very much in the decline. What I do want to talk to you about today is, as it says, our mission is about how to make life easier by transforming how people communicate with brands. So today we are working with about 250 brands around the world already going down this conversational commerce messaging or asynchronous messaging path. What is it? It's WhatsApp. That's all it is. That same channel, that same methodology, that same way that we're all incredibly common and familiar with using today. I've seen many of you doing it today, and don't worry, it's absolutely fine, because you can send a message and you can pay attention. That's the difference. You can't make a phone call, it interrupts your life, but you can send a message. So today there are about 265 billion phone calls from consumers, from your customers, going into contact centers of your business and of other businesses around the world at a frankly quite staggering cost of about $1.3 trillion. We made it and they will come, and they certainly did, because predominantly that's the way that most of our customers get in touch with most brands when it gets complicated. They phone us. But they don't particularly like it. Now, okay, in a survey, 39% of people said they would rather clean the toilet. Maybe that's a little bit unrealistic. But the reality is, we don't really like making that phone call. Even the people that say they prefer it to the other options. Do you really like giving up half an hour of your day to phone the business you've spent your money with to find out the resolution to a problem they've caused in your life? Probably not. Then we think about the web. Now, I'm not going to say the web's going to die, don't worry, and the internet is a truly fantastic thing and has changed the world. But have websites really lived up to the business case that was talked about 20 years ago? The slide says less than 5% of people convert. Anyone hands up who wants to say they get 5% conversion? I would say it's probably, congratulations, well done. I would say it's generally about 2 or 3%. And if you go to mobile, maybe 1.5%, maybe 2% of people that are coming to your website are going on to convert. If my CTO was here, who's ex-Amazon, he built and ran the Amazon search and then went on to build and run Alexa. He would be talking here about how about half of that 13% actually goes through Amazon. So, of total commerce that's going on in the world today, 13% is digital, and about 6% of that is through Amazon. So, I totally agree with what was being said before. It's about having a combination of different outlets and different options. The web, though, isn't living up to be this all-living utopia of everything will happen through the web. And then we think about service. And again, coming back to those people who have phoned you, who don't like phoning you, and are particularly pleased that you tell them that they can get help on your website while they spend 20 minutes holding to get help on your telephone line. 80% of them were on your website before they phoned you. And that's from Google, not from LivePerson. So websites are working, but they're not working in the way that we've all spent that money on and the huge cost that some of your brands and other verticals have invested in the website. So what is it about? Well, as I touched on earlier, today everyone lives on their phone, they just don't use it to call. We're all messaging, all day, every day. 100 billion messages per day on Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. 100 billion. 13 million text messages sent every single minute. If this place existed in the real world, here on planet Earth, how big would the store be that was there? You all like to build stores where people are. This is where your customers are. In messaging, on Instagram, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, in SMS. They're all doing it. The bit that's missing from conversational commerce, by and large, is getting the brands to where the customers are today. Now, don't just take my word for it and LivePerson's word for it. We are, after all, a relatively small software business. Apple, Google, Facebook. The biggest brands in the world, the brands with a proven ability to change behavior. Again, Generation Y and Generation Z, defined by the fact that the iPad was in existence. These brands are all now investing their time, their money, their effort, their reputation in business-to-consumer messaging platforms. It is native on every iOS device. It is native on every Android device very, very soon. And it is within Facebook, it is within WhatsApp, and it is within Instagram. Therefore, it is on pretty much every single phone that's in the UK and in the Western world today. That's why there's 100 billion messages being sent. This is where your customers are, and this is where the big brands are investing their time and money. Google says the new web, or the new web will be messaging. Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, has said the new social is going to be messaging. This is why he's doing end-to-end encryption across all 3 channels. So let's have a little think about it. The platforms are doing it, the customers are doing it. Let's look at the data and really start to drill down a little bit and see what can this benefit your business. So results are showing that if you just change your ads that you're already doing to be more of a conversational style, as you see here, ask us about our rates, click-through rates go up by 3.5 to 4x. So there's the top of the funnel growing by 350%. From ads, very similar to the ones you're doing today. Again, coming back to Facebook, but this data point absolutely correlates with the data that LivePerson sees. From ads that click through directly into a messaging conversation on a messaging application, so not going to your web, Facebook say, if you have a well-designed conversation, and that can be automated or with a human being, depending on the use case and depending on the product, 80 to 90% interactive response rates. 80 to 90% of the 350% of people that are clicking are being interactive. Think about that compared to your website. And then they convert higher. Major UK telco, and this is for an entirely human being-orientated messaging program. There is no automation. It is outperforming the same use case in their call center in terms of sales processed per hour by a factor of almost 3. There is the business case if you didn't believe it already. You put automation on there, and that factor of 3 becomes a factor of 30, a factor of 50. So as I touched on earlier, and thinking about, let's compare this to what you're doing today in your digital marketing funnel. For every 100 clicks, 44% get into the product page views. This is data that's taken across our customer base, and it is a mix of both desktop and mobile. Again, if we look at mobile, I think that you're all going to recognize that funnel as being more acute. About 14% are into some level of form fill. You're beginning to get data capture. So if they don't buy today, this potentially gives you the ability to retarget them beyond just retargeting through cookies. And about 3% or 3 people from every 100 buy a product. I'm sure, broadly speaking, you all recognize that funnel. Now let's look at the funnel from a conversational commerce point of view. For the same 100 clicks that come in, 80% have an interactive, responsive conversation. And about 10% of that go on to buy. So it's not 3 sales, it's 8 sales. Now, the really important bit is that you're in their pocket, even if they don't buy. So even if they don't buy, it's not how do I go about retargeting them, thinking about the product that they didn't buy, and the next time they're on some random website so that I can chase them around the internet in a really scary and creepy way. I just send them another message. I'm in their pocket. What I need to know is what's the message that I need to send at what point and what regularity to incentivize the 70-ish% of people that I'm having a conversation with that didn't buy within a short time frame. And even those that did buy, what about going back and upselling and cross-selling? Depending on the product that they've bought, before they've bought, you've got the opportunity to upsell. If they're buying, maybe particularly when we look at travel and things where there's that very long lead time between making a purchase and actually going on the trip, the ability to be re-engaging with that customer in their pocket. Simply, have you thought about this? What about that event? Would you like to take this trip off the boat? So, that's some numbers. Let's think about how this could look. Advertising in places and platforms that you recognize today, Facebook, banner ads, QR codes. At last they really work because the platforms will recognize a QR code. No longer do the consumers need to download an app. Instagram, email, anywhere where you're advertising today, you're just changing the adverts a little bit to make them conversational and to make the call to action about message me, have a conversation with me, not click here to buy. Obviously, very much mobile focused. Conversational ad, coming through to Apple Business Chat. If anyone's not aware of what Apple Business Chat is, it is the Apple platform way of saying that you can have a messaging conversation from a business to a consumer. The business is verified and certified. It is a high, rich conversational content, as you can see here, with list pickers and various other elements to enable the conversation with your consumer to be engaging, to enable them to be able to upsell, to enable them to buy the right product that they want to do in a very, very simple way. And then they pay with Apple Pay. Maybe they swipe up, or as per this example, as we'll get to in a second, they just use Face ID. How simple can that be? And again, you're in their pocket. So they bought the handbag today in this example. What about going back tomorrow after they've had delivery of the handbag and offering them something else? Another example, Google is launching Message Now in every ad if you want to turn that on as a brand. So instead of just displaying your phone number, you can display the Message Now. Upon clicking that, that can go into Google RCS. RCS is a platform-agnostic SMS version 2 or 2.0 if you want to think about it. SMS is obviously very much still from the, still quite basic, I guess, 'cause it's been around for a long time. Again, a very rich conversation, incredibly similar to what Apple was just showing there. But this now means you're on every Android device and every Apple device. So pretty much you're on every device in the UK and in many other countries. Again, using Google Pay. So from the ad, message me, straight into a conversation, bang, bought. Now, in a bit of a drop the mic moment, not to be outdone, Apple have just announced Chat Suggest. So in any place where you've got your phone number on any HTML, so on an ad, in an email, on your website, today you'll all recognize, those of you who have an iOS device, when you click that phone number, you get the option to call or to cancel. Well, from iOS 13 coming out in the autumn, you'll get the option, if your brand decides to turn it on, to call, to message, or to cancel. From any phone number that you put on any HTML, you can promote to your customers the ability to message rather than phoning. Why would you do that? It converts higher and it's more productive, and because your customers love it. Again, not just thinking about the platforms on the mobile devices. We've touched on WhatsApp, we've touched on Facebook. Instagram later this year is due to release a set of APIs. So you can take your Instagram imagery, which you may be able to swipe up on to go, and you might be testing some of the purchase options that they're releasing. It can come into a WhatsApp messaging conversation. So if there are any questions that the consumer has before going ahead and purchasing, they can have that. You can display videos. And again, you can go on to purchase either by deep linking back into your mobile basket or by using a pop-up option to take credit or debit card payment details and processing that. So again, we're working with about 250 brands today. These are the brands that are innovating in this space, and they are doing this with their customers to varying degrees. The thought you need to be thinking about, really, I guess, is what is your brand going to do? Do you want to be out there innovating and grabbing into this customer base and into this opportunity to accelerate your revenue growth? And it's not just about how do I win new customers, but it's relevant to the whole life cycle. As we can see here, just some simple examples about how you can discover, how we can consider and transact through that whole life cycle. And it's very easy because you are in their pocket. Everyone's got their phone on them all day, every day, from the moment we get up to the moment we go to bed. And on average, notifications from messaging, 93% are opened within 5 minutes. So when you're doing that follow-up, when you're doing that prompting to help the customer come round and make that purchase, 93% open rate within 5 minutes. And an 80% plus engagement rate based on Facebook data, as long as you've got a high quality, rich conversation. The data points are there that shows this is working today. It is absolutely there and valid for your business. Let's look at some other opportunities. How many millions of text messages do you send out to your customers today with a call to action is to log on to the website or to make a call to the business? Why not turn these simple outbound messages into two-way messages? Now, this is a disruption use case. A particular one is around travel. But there are many use cases which are valid. You see how simple it is from this point of view. If there's a flight cancelled, which is a high point of stress, All the customer does here is have one simple option to press and reply to change their flight, and it's done. That could be the same if a delivery is delayed, if a product's out of stock, if you want to go back and upsell them based on a product that is in stock, there's now a new addition to come along with that. You're sending the messages anyway, you just then ask them to call or to go to the website, of which no more than 5% on average buy. Keep it in the channel where your customers are today. Keep it in the channel from which you are contacting them. Again, another example. Some of you may have heard of Aramark. Many of you probably eat with Aramark. They are one of the world's largest catering companies around the world and may well do the catering in your head office or other offices. They certainly do the catering in a large number of sports stadiums. And if any of you have ever been to the US and to some of the sports stadiums there, during the game you can put your hand up and roughly within a few minutes maybe a hawker will come to you and you can buy a beer, a bottle of water, a packet of crisps, a hot dog, whatever it be. Hugely inefficient, but something that the American sports population really depend on. What have they done to bring it up to date? And again, to bring the sort of the reality, and again, like the previous speaker was talking about, bringing the retail experience and the digital experience together. Very simply, on the chair in front of you, there's a unique QR code. You scan that so it knows your seat, and it goes into a fully automated menu where you can choose your drinks and your snacks, and you pay with Apple Pay. And then the hawker brings what you want to your seat. No longer are you turning around, missing the game, trying to catch someone's eye. It's done. Click, swoosh, bang, paid. 40% higher AOV, 30% higher repeat custom rate. In a sports stadium, buying drinks and hot dogs. And it's not just about sales. We're doing this today. Most of the 250 brands actually started from a service perspective or a care perspective. Sky, one of the first innovators, started with us a few years ago. They're seeing up to 2 times efficiency within pure labor efficiency based on messaging versus voice. And now we're threading through automation with Sky, and they're seeing that number really go up, as well as delivering a better experience for their customers, and as well as delivering a great experience for their employees and their employee engagement. To that effect, about 50% of all messaging conversations that LivePerson is delivering now have a level of automation in there. And what we've designed the platform to be is that automation for us, a bot or your AI, is simply another agent. And so there is a seamless tango, as we call it, between the automation and between the human beings, as is required. So your conversation may well start with automation, may well profile the customer and the product and understand what they're about. But if they have a particular question before going ahead, maybe that's where you seamlessly transfer to the agent. That real moment of truth can help the consumer with a particular question they have. When I talk about transfer, don't worry, you don't get put on hold and listen to Greensleeves. It's simply someone else is responding within the messaging conversation. The agent obviously has the full transcript, so it doesn't need to say, what can I help you with today? They can just simply give the answer. Once the customer's satisfied, the agent can push the customer back to automation in terms of a checkout bot. So instead of a whole conversation being on a telephone to do a purchase, which is a high-value conversation, that may well, if they call into your call center, it's probably press 1. It's probably got the shortest queue time, if no queue time at all. Now your agents can be involved at the moment of truth and segmenting that with automation to deliver the real best experience for your customers and for your agents and, of course, for your business. As ever, 3 key takeaways. As humans, we communicate via conversation. We do this thousands of times a day. We do not communicate through menus and drop-downs. And this is why the internet is brilliant, but why websites aren't quite living up to what it's all about and what the hype was about 20 years ago. And why, I'm not saying we need to take them down, but I think we need to think about better ways, more up-to-date ways of communicating with our customers. And for me, that is messaging. And I know I'm going to say that, but it's because think back to the numbers of messages that are sent every day. Think back to how often you as an individual message every day to your friends, to your family, to your peers, to your customers, to your colleagues, just probably not to the brands you spend your hard-earned money with. The opportunity is massive, 100 billion messages a day. If this was a real place on planet Earth, the biggest shopping mall would be there. It would be. Because that's where the people are, that's where the customers are, that's where the money is. And where you want, absolutely, you can lead with automation. Ignore the fact we're called LivePerson. You can lead with automation. You can make this really efficient for your business, as well as a great experience for your customers. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Reuben? Gentleman over there on the left. If we can spread it out so we make Kima run the length of the room, that would be brilliant.
How do I get my workout in for the 2 days?
Hi there, thank you. Sean Newmarch from Dyson. Once technology is in place, when you're thinking about the experience design of conversational commerce, what are the core steps that brands go through to define their identity with messaging bots and things like that? So tone of voice and those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think really you need to think back to what is the brand identity that you have today. And you certainly can look to replicate that within messaging. Messaging can 100% be personalized, much more than a website can be. I'll direct you maybe if you want to have a look to a video for Rose at the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Las Vegas. Now, it's a bit out there, it's a bit raunchy, right? Nothing too much, I promise you of that. But in terms of the brand of the Cosmopolitan Hotel, it's absolutely spot on, and it's all about automation. That's 100% automation-led. So they thought about their brand, and they thought very carefully about the language they want to use and how they want to respond. You also need to think about it from a design perspective, because a mobile phone is small. You know, you've got a few inches by a few inches of screen. You want to make sure you're not replicating the very large and long terms and conditions that you might have elsewhere. You can link out to them, obviously, so that your customers can read them, but maybe not reading in that way. So there is a process to go through, and we can certainly help them talk about that if you wish.
Are brands changing their tone of voice and the experience they're providing based on who they're talking to? So if you think about a human interaction, you tailor your approach based on who you're having a conversation with. Is it one size fits all, or are people beginning to think about different types of automated personalities based on who they're talking to?
I think it's fair to say that they're starting to think about it, but they've not quite got to the point of managing to get to that. Again, if the segmentation is possible, so you can understand the segment of your customer, the ability to personalize that thread of conversation through automation is very, very simple.
Thank you.
No problem.
Cool. Any more questions? Maria.
You wearing a Fitbit, Kimmy?
Hi, I'm really interested in the conversation about how web versus text, and obviously the evolution in terms of the engagement that you can generate via text. But I wonder what is the role of voice in this? Because obviously we're moving to a generation whereby my son certainly is talking to Google and asking Google to search via voice. He's talking to all the devices. I'm talking to my devices at home. And while I agree text is the way forward, it feels like voice needs to be considered as the next step. So I wonder how that is going to manifest itself.
Yes, certainly. And well, I talk about messaging, and for example's case, we were just using text. But if you're doing the voice snippets, then there's no reason to not be doing that. One of a large telco in Europe that we're working with was getting a lot of that. And so they've invested in some technology that takes that and translates it back to text so that their agents don't need to be listening because they're into a mode of reading and responding to, but it's been able to be a seamless experience. So it's very possible.
The audio aspect is really interesting. I almost start to get to the point where I want Alexa to start talking to me from the voice of the brand. So Alexa adopts a new voice when it's talking to me from Adidas or from Crew or from whatever. I want that engagement to be kind of personalized on voice as well. So I think there's more steps to go in terms of text being the conversational conversion area. I think voice could also play a big role in that going forward.
100%. Please don't think I'm saying that it's about removing voice, but I think it's about removing the traditional phone call, the analog phone call. We are messaging, whether it be using the voice snippets or through text. Voice is definitely a growing segment of that. It's very early days from this point of view, but there are definitely brands that are investing in that area. And I think it'd be great to the point of getting where Alexa's got that different voice to be coming back with a brand. I'll have a chat with our CTO about it.
But you started the conversation with the first thing of saying live chat on the websites as we have them at the moment is going to be dead in 5 years' time. Are you do you see that movement already? Because live chat is obviously something that's been pushed to us left, right and centre as being the really key operational kind of area that we need to focus on from a customer service point of view. Do you see live chat as being phased out and replaced with conversational?
So for two perspectives to a degree, yes. One is that mobile traffic versus desktop traffic is, mobile traffic's phasing out desktop traffic, right? Many brands are now at 60, 70, 75% of traffic is mobile. So that's the first piece. The second piece from a desktop perspective, having a window there where you can still have a conversation, I think is still relevant. But move that to messaging so that that conversation doesn't end when the session ends. So again, in life, we sort of log on in snippets for a minute here, a minute there, maybe on desktops for a bit longer, but we still get interrupted. If you think about chat, that conversation is ended. We advise our brands, if the consumer's not responding in a chat after X number of minutes, you should think about closing that conversation, because from a productivity point of view, you can't leave it open. In messaging, it's very different. If the customer doesn't respond, the conversation becomes inactive, not closed. So when the consumer comes back, a day later, a minute later, a week later, they can pick up that conversation again halfway through. So web messaging as such, so just an evolution of web chat, I think is still around. But overall, where is desktop traffic going to be in another 5 or 10 years? That is something beyond LivePerson. Okay, thank you.
Time for one more? Any more?
Nope.
Any more?
Okay.
Any more? Any more? No. Reuben, thank you very, very much for that.
Thank you very much.
Round of applause. Cheers. Thanks, mate. Okay. All right.